Alright guys, we're going to dive into 1-7, solving multi-step inequalities, which should be familiar with things that you've done before. So we're going to start out with this inequality that negative 6a minus 7 is less than or equal to 17. So I want you guys to try this on your own before I even do anything. Pause the video, give this a shot, see what you remember about solving these inequalities. Alright, so hopefully you guys remember that we want to start by getting like terms together on one side. So since I have variable constant on the left side, I go ahead and put that constant over on the right side by adding 7, inverse operation. That leaves me with negative 6a equal, not equal. That should be less than or equal. Make sure that you didn't make that mistake. To 24. Now this is where the tricky part comes in. We want to divide on both sides to get rid of this multiplication. So we're going to divide by negative 6, but when we divide by the negative, something specific happens here because it's an inequality. And if you don't remember what that is, it is that your inequality symbol flips direction when you divide by that negative. So 24 divided by 6 then gives me a negative 4. And if I plug in anything in that range, so a greater than or equal to negative 4, let's go something greater than negative 4. Well, 0 is actually greater than negative 4. So an easy way to check is plug in 0 for a. That'd make that 0 is negative 7 less than or equal to positive 17. Yes, it is. So go ahead and look at this next one down here, negative 4 less than 5 minus 3, and go ahead and try that on your own. Alright, so we start this one off by combining our like terms by getting the constants together. So we get that 5 from the right side, we subtract it, and it comes over to the left, which gives me negative 9 is less than or equal to, well, this 5 is gone now, actually, so that's an error on my part. But the negative 3n is still there, so the negative 3n, we need to get rid of the negative, which means that on both sides we're going to want to divide. And again, what happens when we divide by a negative? The inequality symbol flips direction. So that's now positive. This now flips direction. And because we like to say the inequality first, it's better to write it this direction, flipping the entire thing around one more time, just so that we can say n is less than 3. Because otherwise you say 3 is greater than n, which is the same thing, but this is just a little bit cleaner, a little bit nicer. Go ahead and try C on your own. Alright, so we start by combining our constants on one side. So since that's positive 30, we subtract 30 from both sides, and we get 20 is greater than 8/10 x. Now because that's multiplied, we want to divide. Now we could also set that up as a fraction and then multiply as the reciprocal. But it all depends on which you like better. So when I take 20 and divide by 8/10, I actually end up, because it's a number less than 1, my value gets bigger. So we get 25 is greater than x, or we can rewrite it as x would be less than 25. So now when we talk about writing and solving multi-step inequalities, these situations present themselves a lot in life, especially when you're trying to make at least a certain amount of something or more than. So all those different times where this math is truly applicable. So we're trying to make a rectangular banner. So first off, we know it's a rectangle, so 4 sides, yada yada. It is 18 feet long, trim that goes around the entire board of the banner. You have no more than 48 feet. So this is our maximum. No more than 48 feet. So what are the possible widths for the banner? We have to start by remembering that the perimeter of a banner, since we're talking about the trim that goes all the way around it, we're really talking about the perimeter, and that is equal to 2 times the length plus the width. Now we'll go back and fill in what we know here in a minute. Now that perimeter has at most 48 feet because it can be no more than. So this perimeter is going to have to be, could be equal, we could use all of it, or it could be less than. So we set up that that perimeter is less than or equal to 48. Then we can distribute this, but first we know that it's 18 feet long, So we could go ahead and replace that length with 18 feet. Then we distribute 2 times 18 gives me 36. 2 times W gives me 2W. That's less than or equal to 48. Now again, we want to combine our like terms. So pause the video and try to finish solving this if you can. When we combine the like terms, we subtract 36 on both sides. That then on the left side leaves me with just my 2W is less than or equal to 12. 2W less than or equal to 12. I'm just going to rewrite this so I have some more space. Then to get rid of the 2 combined with the W, we divide. And we see that W is in the range of less than or equal to 6. So the width could be 6 or less. Now, of course, the width won't be 0, so if we wanted to be really accurate, we could write this as a double inequality and say 0 is less than, actually we need to get rid of that equal. 0 is less than W is less than 6. Less than or equal to 6, actually, more so there. So it'll be in the range between 0 and 6. Alright, so go ahead and try this got it here on your own, and then plug in to check your solutions. Alright, so hopefully your first step was to distribute this negative 2, because it's negative 2 times 4m plus 7. So we distribute that, we get negative 8m, and then we get negative 14. Now the other question that sometimes arises is, what about doing the subtraction first? Well, if you're following order of operations, you're trying to do this parentheses first, which you can't do until you distribute, so that actually falls into multiplication. So that's our first step. Go ahead and keep combining like terms. Try to take this to the next step. Alright, so all I did up here was did a little rearrangement so that I could get my constants here together and deal with 5 minus 14, which gave me a negative 9. The negative 8m just kind of stayed and carried down. So now that I have a negative 9 and I have a variable term on this side also, I want to get this constant over to the other side. So I add 9 to both sides, which means that these 9s will cancel out, and this left side will give me a new constant value. So go ahead and try to finish solving this on your own. Alright, so then on both sides, so then we have 24 less than or equal to negative 8m. On both sides, we divide by the negative 8 to get rid of that. Because we're dividing by a negative, and because this is an inequality, hopefully you paid attention to the fact that this inequality symbol has to turn around. So at first, I just keep my constant on the left side, negative 3, and my variable on the right side, m. But then, because I like it written like this better, I flip it around so that I can write my constant, or my variable term first, and say m is greater than or equal to negative 3. Alright, so then we're asked to check our solution. So we write out the whole original inequality, and where we had m to begin with, we can just replace with something that is greater than negative 3. And remember, greater means a larger value. So go up the number line. So we go to negative 2 as the next value, so I figured that would just be easy. So then we have 15 is less than or equal to, well, now I can kind of start solving this from the middle out. So 4 times negative 2, that'd give me negative 8. Negative 8 plus 7 would give me just negative 1 for inside these parentheses. Negative 1 times a negative 2 really then gives me 5 plus 2 on this right side. And is 15 less than or equal to 7? So this is one of those times where checking your work is absolutely what saves your butt. So what's funny about me filming these videos is I only get one chance. I can't go back and change things. So right here, where I said we need to turn things around, I turned around my m, I turned around my negative 3, but I forgot to turn this around. So this should have actually been less than or equal to. Alright, so now that we got that straightened out, let's just go a tiny bit the other direction. So now if m should be less than or equal to negative 3, less than or equal to negative 3, well, negative 4 is less than a negative 3. So let's go ahead and use that value. So I have 4 times negative 4, which will give me negative 16, plus 7, which a negative 16 plus 7 still gives me a negative 9. So that's all that's in my parentheses right here. Negative 2 times a negative 9, well, that gives me a positive 18. So now I can rewrite all of this and say that it's 15 less than 5. And we said that negative 2 times negative 9 was positive 18. So now we get, is 15 less than or equal to 23, which yes, it is. So we know that our answer checks out and that our value is correct. We could check a couple more values if you really wanted to make sure, but we don't need to do that for our case. All right, now you really have to be honest on this one. Pause the video right now. Try to solve this this inequality. You have a variable and a constant term on both sides. Do not start the video again until you have a value for your b. All right, your solution does not have to match mine perfectly, but it should be something similar to this. We get our constants on the same side, so we subtracted 12, or I subtracted 12. You could have done it the other way around, subtracted 27. As long as your answer is the same, that is all that matters. So then I end up with 3b greater than 15 minus 2b, because these combine to give me 15. Since that's a negative 2b, I will add 2b to both sides, 2b or not 2b. 5b then greater than 15. We can divide by 5 on both sides, and then we get that b is greater than 3. That wraps it up for this lesson. Make sure that you download the practice or the homework off of Schoology. Give that a shot, complete it until you are confident in your skills, and let me know if you have any issues. Thank you. Bye.